Hello and welcome to the first ever episode of the DreadBaron Review. This is a show that will be focusing on many movies, some you may have heard of, some you may have not, and we'll be reviewing them to look and see what is the best and worst out there. This show will, of course, focus primarily on Western style animation, but I will look at other things as they come along. With that in mind, let's start the show off with a bang. We're going to start, my friends, with perhaps my most hated movie of all time. We're starting with the 1998 film, The Lion King 2, Simba's Pride. This movie is terrible. Now let me tell you why. There are many reasons why this is a very terrible movie. The music is awful in this movie, and I mean it. It does not hold up to the standard set by the original Lion King at all. Consider the opening sequence. The opening sequence, of course, is a direct ripoff of Circle of Life from the first movie, and yet it's a dance number. It sounds like a dance number. It sounds like something I would listen to in a club in Vancouver. You know? Yeah, that fits The Lion King, doesn't it? A dance number. And the rest of the songs are just so bland, it's ridiculous. We Are One, pass. My Lullaby, pass. He Is Not One of Us, pass. You know, they're all just so bland and so awful to sit through. It becomes a labor to sit through. But that's not even the worst part about this movie. No, the worst part about this movie is the way it messes. I almost said something pretty bad there, but I didn't. It messes with the ending from the first movie. You know, the ending from the first movie was pretty cut and dry. Scar dies. He has no supporters. End of regime. You know, the king is dead. Long live King Simba. But no, this movie tries to tell us that, oh yeah, there were plenty of supporters for Scar, the cult of Scar, and they want their revenge. Where was the cult of Scar? There was none. You know, it did not exist. I can't believe I have to say this. There was no cult of Scar. What are you doing? What the fuck are you doing? It makes no sense to have this new storyline retconning the first movie, and you don't even want to explain to us. You just assume that your fans will accept it because they're idiots, I guess. And let's dig into the cult of Scar, shall we? First we have Zira, the villain of the picture, who could have just basically spent the whole movie shouting, "Revenge! Revenge! Revenge for Scar!" And her part would have stayed exactly the same, believe me. Then we have our male lead. I don't want to call him the hero of this movie, and I'll tell you why in a minute. Kovu, bland, as well as his brother Nuka and his sister Vitani. Now, Vitani, plot device, that's it. But Nuka is the star of this movie, and I will tell you why. His story is above and beyond the most compelling of all the stories told in this movie. We have Simba, who's just a neurotic mess, doesn't want his daughter to do anything, and doesn't want anything bad to happen to her, and he's not trusting of anyone. He's perhaps the most paranoid king ever, though I can understand why, considering what happened in the first movie. There's Timon and Pumbaa, comic relief. Really not funny. There's Zira again, revenge. And then there's Nuka. Nuka's story is actually very heart-touching. He wants to gain his mother's love because he feels he is the rightful heir to the throne. And he wants her to love him like she loves Kovu, who she thinks is the rightful heir to the throne. My mistake. Nuka spends the entire movie trying to prove himself and trying to achieve what he feels is his destiny. And that, I believe, makes him the hero of this movie. This is pretty bad. When I am rooting for one of the villains, a supporting villain, supposed to be a comedic character, no less, and yet I find his story more compelling than non-funny sidekicks, villains with one-note motivation, a paranoid king, and a plot directly lifted from Romeo and Juliet for Kovu and Kiara. Oh, and by the way, Kiara, yeah, she's a Disney princess. She wants more. End of story. You know, that's pretty bad when I'm rooting for Nuka. And that leads me to my next point. Why did you kill Nuka? Why did you kill the only redeemable character in your Drek Fest? This movie was terrible, and the only redeeming factor was Nuka. Yet you have him die in a rock slide just to save some of the less memorable characters, to put it lightly. Fail. Anyhow, moving on before I get completely worked up here, let's move on to another topic. The artwork for this movie. I have seen The Lion King. I have seen Lion King 2. I have seen Lion King 1.5. The first and the third are good. They're good in every capacity, including the artwork. The artwork for the third is wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. I don't know if it's because Lion King 2 is a Disney Toons production. Maybe that's just their standard. But put a little effort into it. You do major just insult to the first movie. This movie's entire existence is the low point of what would come to be known the Lion King trilogy. This movie is terrible. Which is why it's a perfect topic for this first review. Because I am going to be digging into so much more worse than this. Tune in next week, folks, when we revisit Spirit, Stallion of the Cimarron.